Hi, working right now making my wife a little bit of a South African treat in the form of a biltong box, which is, if you're not familiar with the term biltong, it's basically like, if you're American like me, I thought it was very similar to beef jerky when I first had it, but then I found out that it's actually made differently, slightly differently, and it tastes different because of it. So instead of beef jerky is heated while it's curing and while it's drying out, biltong is basically is cured at just above room temperature, so I'm going to use a light bulb to actually generate the heat to do that, just in a regular incandescent, either 75 or 100 watt. We'll see what comes out, and then right now what I'm constructing though is the box, which I'm making out of a Rubbermaid storage bin. The general idea is that the box is going to hold the meat on some rails that go across the top. There are going to be hooks holding the meat up. There's going to be a fan on the top that draws air in through some vents in the side, and then a light bulb to generate some heat. That's basically all there is to it, besides, you know, the niceties of having some screen over the vents so the bugs don't get in and that sort of thing. But it's pretty simple. So far what I've done is taken the box, measured out the holes for 4 dowels to go through, cut some 1/2-inch dowel, cut 1/2-inch holes, measured from roughly where the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, measured from roughly where the bottom comes in, because you don't want the meat to touch the sides or else it won't dry out properly. So I measured in from here, made those equidistant so that they all go across, and then same thing on the other side. So I go straight through. Next I need to cut the dowels to length, which is pretty straightforward. Just going to chop those up, and then I'm going to put the light bulb down here. So far I've drilled a pilot hole just to get it centered, then use a hole saw just to cut that out. And then comes the lid. So I'm going to start with the dowel and then go from there. Okay, so here we are. I just put the dowel through the bin just to see where it seemed about right, because it's not an exact science to get these in. They just need to be long enough to not fall out when they're moved around. Okay, so those are all cut to length. Came out within about 1 millimeter of each other, so that's good. Not that it, again, like I said, not that it matters really. So next up is the lid, which is going to have the fan on it. That's it. So it's going to go on top, just like you'd expect. But I'm going to cut a hole, or a square over here for the fan. For the fan, I'm just going to use an old cooling fan from a power supply that died a little bit ago. Happen to have laying around, just clean up all the dust and everything. But then it should suit this job just fine. Just going to screw it in like it was before. Put a screen on the bottom side of it, just to keep, again, to keep, you know, bugs from getting in when the fan's off or whatever. And then go from there. The nice thing about this is it's hollow underneath, so I can just cut straight through this without worrying about hitting anything. So if I put it on the desk, I have to protect it somehow, so it works out nicely. So I'm going to cut the hole for the light now. It's just about perfect. What I'm going to do is mount this in the side here so the light bulb can go in it, but then I can also plug in the fan here, or a 12-volt adapter to power the fan. Actually, that's a nice snug fit. So I was gonna put I still might put a hose clamp on the inside just to hold that snugly, but it is a pretty good fit as it is, so that might just be fine. Then what I'm going to use, obviously this looks weird to power it by this, but I was originally going to just use one of these guys to be the light, but then I wanted to put power here also, so I got this instead, or in addition. So I can be a power source and a light bulb at the same time. So I'll throw a hose clamp on there, and then we can start it up and see what happens. Alright, I'll start with a 75 watt bulb because I have that, or 100 or 150 actually. I think 150 is way too hot. 75's probably plenty for this size box. Oh, note that I also put the outlet a little bit above the bottom. That's so that in the inside the bulb isn't against the bottom. I don't want to have it too close. I don't warp or anything in case it does get hot or too hot. Let's plug this guy in. Make sure it turns on. This also has a switch at the end, which is nice. What I may do eventually is, if I want to go crazy with this and not leave the light on all the time, is I'll put a temperature sensor in, an humidity sensor, and then I can turn on or off the fan and or the light with an Arduino or something. I'm probably going to do that anyway, even if it isn't really necessary, just because it'd be nice to do and a little bit of fun. So anyway, for now, let's just get it hooked up. We can start making our first batch of meat and then go from there. Okay, that's very bright. The bulb works. Pretty simple. So next up I'm going to cut a vent. I'm just going to do it in the side so that I can have the fan be diagonal from the vent and the air comes straight across the box through the meat and everything. So I'm going to cut on this end. There shouldn't be any drippings or anything on this. You want to keep the meat pretty dry when you start out, but I'm going to give it maybe an inch and a half at the bottom until the hole starts, just to be sure that any liquid that is in there doesn't have any chance of spilling onto the floor or onto the counter or whatever it's on. So an inch from that lip. I just wanted to point out that the total cost for this is pretty low. The box itself, I'm going to put all the prices and where I got them and everything in the description, but the box itself was like $9. Obviously I had the light bulb laying around. This adapter was I think like $2.50. And then the dowels were like $5. So in all, it's like under 20 bucks for this whole thing. Granted, I had a few of the parts laying around. I had this corded light bulb light socket already. So, but the cost is pretty low. Doesn't take much to do. What I still need to do is put the fan, mount it to the lid actually, because right now it's just kind of floating in there. And then I need to wire that to a 12-volt circuit. So what I'm going to do is actually put a barrel jack on that so that we can take the lid off without having it still being attached to the whole unit. So back at this today. Yeah, it's another day. I didn't just change my shirt or anything. Thought about it last night and realized that I'm not really happy with myself with how I cut the hole in the lid too big, and I can't actually screw mount the fan. So what I'm going to do is instead take the hole that I cut in the side, and instead of having this be a vent, actually have it be the fan inlet, so the fan's going to blow air into it instead of being on the top and sucking air out. And actually, for that matter, it could still suck air out just from the bottom, so it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do is just make this hole that I made down here bigger. I can still, there's just enough lip here on either side to screw in the fan to right up here, 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 and here. So I'm going to remember not to cut those out when I do it this time so I don't mess it up again. Make this into a bigger circle that'll carve this whole thing out, and then the hole on the top I'll just cover with some screen of some sort, and like a camping like fly screen kind of thing, so that I don't have a hole that's too big and this thing flopping around on top. And then this little gap at the bottom I'm just going to fill in, I think, with hot glue or something, just to kind of close it up so bugs don't get in there either, and the same thing on the top. So it shouldn't be a big deal. It'll look like it was meant to be this way, even though I messed it up. And then everything should be fine. I also, the reason I was thinking about making this hole bigger anyway, which is where I came to this idea, was I want the inlet and the outlet holes to be the same size so that the fan isn't working too hard to not be able to put enough air through anyway. So I'll make the holes the same size, that way there's obviously enough room on either end for the air to go through. So I'm actually going to carve this out next, and then I'll work on powering the fan after that. The other subsequent, or kind of side effect of that is, because the light bulb will be right, you can't see that, but the light bulb will be on right here, and the fan will be right here. I don't need necessarily to do the barrel jack because they're right next to each other anyway, and they're on the same unit. If the fan were on the lid, like I said yesterday, I was going to put a barrel jack in so that I could disconnect the fan. Now I don't actually need to. So it works out better anyway, and I don't think it'll have any effect on the quality of the meat at the end. And because this is a nice square, it doesn't really matter how I line this up, but I'm not sure yet which way is going to be blowing in or out. So like I said, these mount on the top and the bottom with the same diameter screw and everything, so not a big deal there, which is why I'm just kind of lining it up. I'm just going to mark the holes, and then I can, what I might actually do is drill out the screw holes first so that I can see them and I don't accidentally get overzealous with carving out the center holes again. But I can come close. So it's pretty clean. My holes drilled, the box is cut out for the fan, more or less. I just clean that up a little bit more. I can wash this guy, and then mount the fan, clean the fan, sorry, mount the fan, and then go from there. It's getting pretty close. I do need to find a 12-volt power adapter, because this is a 12-volt fan. Other than that, I think we're pretty good. So, okay, I'm just going to clean up the fan a little bit. Or a lot, all the way, let's say. So, I had said I wasn't going to use a barrel jack for the fan, but I just changed my mind because I just located a 12-volt power supply that has a barrel jack. So I'm just going to put one of these guys on the fan end. And lighting isn't great here. Put one of these on the fan end, I can plug it in. So here's the finished product. So what I've done since what you saw last was I added a little bit of screen. It's actually cheesecloth that I just hot glued around the edge here. You can't, it's really bright inside because the light's on, but just around the edges here to make it a little screen so bugs can't get in. May replace that with some actual screen eventually, but for this first batch we want to get going. That's what I had on hand. You can see inside we have the rows of meat hanging from paper clips. I can post a link to roughly the recipe that we used. But light bulbs on inside, tin foil on the bottom just to catch any drippings. And then you can see on this side, here's the fan blowing. I decided to have the fan blow out because then the screen, both the top screen and the inside screen, will be cleanable from the well, the non-fan side, I guess. So the back of the screen will be what catches any dust, so we can clean that from the inside without taking the fan off. And we can take the lid off or just clean the top screen from up here. So that seems to work out fine for us. And then in the back you can see the AC adapter that's putting out the 12 volts. And here's the switch just to turn on and off the light. And that's a 70 watt bulb, seems to be doing fine so far, but again, it's only been about 4 hours or so. So we'll see how this batch goes and then decide if we want to switch to a stronger or less strong wattage bulb. I also held on to this square cutout that I had from where the vent hole was cut, or what I was calling in the video the original fan hole. And what I can use this for, which I haven't yet because I don't know how this batch is going to turn out, but I could use it just to dampen the breeze a little bit and slow down the airflow through. And just by putting it like this, it's cutting down roughly by, I don't know, about half the airflow coming out. And I can feel over here the reduced airflow coming out. So if I decide it's getting dry too fast, I can do that, or put it anywhere in between to adjust the airflow. So just an idea that I had also, figured I'd hold on to that in case it comes in handy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope that this has helped somebody, and I will see you next time. Thank you.